The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone. I'd like to thank you all for joining our webinar today about Power BI and machine learning. My name is Eric Stratman and I'm an analytics consultant for Dunn Solutions Group. I am online from our Minneapolis, Minnesota location. In today's presentation, we will be talking about how your organization can begin gaining never before seen business insights and make smarter business decisions using Power BI and its new functionality, automated machine learning, or AutoML for short. In our webinar today, I'm first going to introduce you to Dunn Solutions Group and who we are as a company. Then I'll be talking about the BI evolution and how organizations can become more analytically mature to gain a competitive advantage. Next, I will provide an introduction to Power BI and its cloud component, Power BI Service. Once we are more familiar with Power BI, I will talk to you about some of its newer functionalities, data flows, and AutoML, as well as provide a quick demonstration on these new functionalities and show you just how cool these are. Please use the chat window in the GoToWebinar to submit any questions you may have. All right, let's get started. Dunn Solutions is a digital transformation consultancy, and our mission is to bring velocity to our customers. Velocity is made up of two components, speed and direction. After all, if you want to move fast, you want to move fast in the right direction. And our goal is to bring your organization speed through automation and direction through analytics. Dunn Solutions currently has offices in the US and India. Our corporate office is in Chicago with remote offices in Minneapolis and Bangalore. We have been delivering innovative business technology to companies for 30 years since our inception in 1988. We believe almost every organization should strive for velocity because velocity enables the velocity virtuous cycle. The velocity virtuous cycle is a feedback loop that uses the vast amounts of data created through process automation to provide insight through analytics. Those insights with automation are then fed back into the business process for improvement and optimization. And with the use of Dunn Solutions' advanced predictive and prescriptive analytic capabilities, this feedback loop will accelerate the speed and dial in the direction as market conditions or business climate changes. A key part of velocity is to provide business insight from data to your business users. The webinar today will show you how your organization can gain more insights and make better business decisions with predictive analytics and machine learning. Now, before we get into what is Power BI, it's important we provide some background on why your organization would want to use Power BI. This leads us to our first discussion, the BI evolution. Organizations everywhere are becoming increasingly reliant on one thing, data. Data helps organizations monitor their systems and processes to ensure everything is operating as expected. We can use data to analyze times when a particular process fails to understand what caused the failure. Data helps organizations learn more about themselves. And with data comes business intelligence, or BI. BI is a set of methodologies and technologies that allow us to transform raw data into meaningful and useful information that can be used to enable more effective tactical insights and better decision making. And over time, BI has evolved to provide organizations more insights. But just because BI is evolving doesn't necessarily mean your organization has kept up with the BI evolution. On your screen, you should see what we call the BI evolution curve. We can see on the x-axis we have analytics maturity, and on the y-axis we have competitive advantage with different examples of BI on the curve. To interpret this chart, as your organization becomes more analytically mature, you will start investing in and using different BI solutions to gain more insights and get a leg up on the competition. The different BI solutions we see currently are what we call the sense and respond analytics, like standard reporting, ad hoc reporting, OLAP systems, and even generic predictive analytics. Think of this BI evolution curve as a rear view mirror for your car. Just like the mirror that lets us see where we have been, these solutions are very important as they tell our organizations what happened to cause this process to fail or what happened to cause us to double our profits last quarter. However, you know what is better than seeing what happened? Knowing what is going to happen, and that is the second portion of the BI evolution curve. You see, a rear view mirror is nice and very important, but having a GPS system telling us where we are going so we don't get lost along the way is even more important. Like the GPS system, using predictive analytics can help us predict what is going to happen and act on it before it even happens. For example, by knowing that one of our processes is likely going to fail soon, we can replace and improve that process before it fails so we don't lose production and we keep our competitive advantage. And the main takeaway I want everyone to get from this chart is that the key is unlocking data to move decision making from sense and respond to predict and act. All right, now we know why it is important to become more analytically mature, but how are we going to accomplish this? That is where Power BI comes into play. What is Power BI? Microsoft Power BI is a business analytics solution. With it, you can connect to on-premise and cloud data sources at the same time and create stunning visualizations and metrics that really bring your data to life. And you can arrange the visualizations and metrics you have created in a report so you can tell your business's story through data and really gain and capture insights your organization hasn't seen before. The best part of Power BI? Your organization can begin progressing along the BI evolution curve at zero cost with Power BI Desktop. And you may be thinking, yeah, but it is a free tool, so it's limited. No, not at all, actually. Power BI Desktop is the main developer tool with the Power BI platform. Power BI Desktop is the tool you use in order to have all report building capabilities. All right, I've done my job and I've sold you on Power BI. You download the Power BI Desktop tool for free and create a stunning report that your organization would be able to use to take it to the next level. But what exactly do you do with that report once you've created it? That's where Power BI Service comes in. Power BI Service is Power BI's software as a service. It allows you to store your reports all in one place in the cloud. Once you've stored one report, you can then build other completely separate reports while using the data from your previously built report. You can take specific visualizations or tiles from your different reports and place them all into one view called a dashboard to be able to monitor the heartbeat of your organization. Power BI Service also provides you the ability to set up a schedule to refresh your reports so you always have up-to-date data. But what I personally believe Power BI Service's greatest benefit is it really empowers collaboration. It makes sharing your reports easy so the people who need to see what you've created can easily see it. Also, you can easily provide access and share reports with users outside of your organization. And say your organization has an application that everyone already uses and you think it would be beneficial to include your report in that application, Power BI provides developers the ability to embed reports right into their application. And with the Publish to Web feature, you can publish your report to show everyone your analysis and visualizations that you've brought to life. Now, even though what I've talked about is great and all, remember we want to unlock our data by moving from the sense and respond analytics to predict and act. And with some of Power BI's newest capabilities, data flows and AutoML, we are able to take that next step. Power BI Data Flows is Power BI's self-service data prep option. It uses an interface similar to Power Query to extract, transform, and store your data as an entity in Power BI Service. If you're familiar with Power BI, you may be asking, how is this any different than Power Query and desktop and datasets? Well, unlike Power Query and datasets with Power BI reports, we are not just storing the data schema and letting the data flow through. We are actually storing actual data in what is called entities. These entities store the data in Azure's Data Lake Storage Gen 2. But don't worry, the user actually never leaves the Power BI Service user interface, so this isn't going to be another tool that you'll have to learn and pick up. With these new entities, users can create datasets and build reports. Why would organizations want to do this when they have Power Query, Power BI Desktop? Well, because by using data flows, we can avoid data silos. So you can centralize your organization's data sources, and we can have one source of truth. Basically, we can avoid those ever problematic cases of two developers creating the same metric from two different data sources and coming up with two completely different answers. Also, another reason to use data flows is then once you have created data flows, you can take advantage of its machine learning capability, AutoML. With AutoML, analysts are now not only able to visualize their data with Power BI, they can also construct predictive models. And don't be intimidated by the tool, because Power BI follows best modeling practices by training and validating the model, so you don't have to be a data science in order to properly use AutoML. It provides you the ability to build classification or regression models. It has also the option for classification to be whether it's binary, meaning a 1 or 0 response variable, or a general classification model. And once you've built your model, Power BI builds a report for you to show you how well your model performs, so you don't have to go through the extra work of seeing how well your model's performed and going through all the different metrics. Once you are satisfied with your model, you can then apply your model to your data flows to incorporate your predictions within your reports and begin making better business decisions. All right, enough of me just talking about how great Power BI is. Let me show you a quick demonstration on data flows and AutoML. So what you see on your screen is the Power BI service platform. What I'm opened in right now is called a workspace. The workspace I've titled is called the Done Solutions Group Demo, or DSG Demo in this case. Within the workspace, then, you have dashboards, reports, workbooks, datasets, and data flows. And then it's also important to know that these workspaces are what you can provide you can create separate workspaces for different groups within your organization. So you can provide different access rights to these workspaces. So what we're interested in today is the data flows. So let's go to the data flows. We already have one created. We'll be coming back to that later. But for right now, let's create a new one. Open up data flows here. Give it a second. There we go. And so, yep, we're ready to go. We can start creating our data flow. We can either define a new entity, link entities from other data flows, import a model, or attach a common data model folder, which is in current beta mode, or preview mode as Power BI likes to call it. So we're going to start by defining a new entity. And here we have all the different types of sources that we can create our entity with. We see some cloud sources like Salesforce, but what we're going to do today is we're going to connect to an on-premise data source. So we're using the cloud Power BI service to connect to our on-premise SQL Server database. So that SQL Server database, we'll type in our credentials here. And you can see everything else populates itself once you've entered in before. Click Next. Hopefully we get all green lights here. And there we are. Now we're connected to the database, and you can see within the database we have different tables. The one that I'm going to build a predictive model off today is the Metro Interstate Traffic Volume. So if I click this, it'll give us a preview of the data. And what this data set actually is it shows us the traffic volume of a popular interstate within the Minneapolis metro area. And it has, each row represents an hour for a day, and then it has descriptions of that hour, like the weather, the clouds, how much snow or rainfall there was, and the temperature. So we're going to select this data set. Then we're going to click Transform Data. And now, for those of you that are familiar with Power BI Desktop, this should look familiar to you. This is pretty similar to the Power Query that you see in Power BI Desktop. It probably has a little bit less capabilities that you do in Power BI Desktop, but still most of the capabilities that you typically have, you see here. And because we're building a predictive model, we're going to want to use as many variables as we can. And this date time, that's not going to end up being very good since it's going to have a bunch of different factors. So what we're going to do is we're going to change from a date time to a time. We can see that quick change here. Yep, now we remove the date, we just have the time. But that still gives us about 24 different factors within that variable. I'm going to want to, let's add a column here. We're going to add a conditional column. We're just going to name it custom so we remind ourselves that we built this. We'll say date time is before equal to, and we're going to go 9 a.m. And we're going to call this morning. And we're going to do this a couple other times just to create a couple different factors for us. One more. Now, you may be thinking, what about midnight? Well, midnight would actually fall underneath this category for morning, since that would be 12 a.m. And then we're going to do a null just for good practices. So double check, make sure everything looks good. Yep, looks good. We'll click OK. It'll then create our custom column here. There we are. We see 9 a.m. morning, 10 a.m. afternoon, 1 p.m. afternoon, and so on and so forth. We don't have any nulls. Everything looks pretty good. I would say for now, just kind of as a preliminary model, we're good to go. We'll save and close this. So then it'll validate, and this is actually going to be creating our entity for our data flow. We're going to call it Metro Traffic Demo. Save that. All right, now it's a success. Now we can either select the refresh now and it'll actually populate our data, or we can set up a refresh schedule. That's going to take some time, and for the sake of it being a webinar and saving time, that's why I had that other data flow already built for that. So here we can see this is our entity that we created, everything else. Let's hop back to the workspace, go back to this data flows tab. Let's go into this metro traffic. It should be identical to what we just created. Let this load up here. So then here is the entity that similar to what we just created. We can see we have that custom column, just the 4 different categories. Now, say we have this entity and we want to now look at AutoML and the machine learning capabilities. We would just select this little brain icon here and add a machine learning model. So then it's just a simple 4-step to create our model. We have our entity, we select that. Our outcome field, we want it to be traffic volume. We'll click next. And now here we get the choice between binary or general classification or regression. Since traffic volume is a numeric value, we're going to go with regression. And now we get to select what type of variables we want to include in the model. We don't want date time since we created that custom column, so we'll remove date time and keep that custom. Everything else we'll want to keep. We'll select next. And then here we get to select how long we want to train our model, between 5 and 360 minutes. The longer you give your model to train, the better your model is going to perform. But again, for the sake of time, we're not going, all we would have to do is select a time here and enter a name for the model and click save, and it would start building it. But we're going to go back since I already created a model. We'll cancel this. And once it creates the model, it actually creates 2 separate entities. One for the training, which you can see is similar to our original entity, except with an isTraining flag, which has a Boolean data type. And then we have the testing entity, which has the same with that training flag, and then some outputs from our regression model. And then once we have our machine learning model built, we can go hop over from the Entities tab to the Machine Learning Models tab, and we can see our model here. And then with the actions with the model, we can then either retrain it, view the training report that Power BI builds for your models whenever you build a model, or then once you're satisfied with it, you can apply your machine learning model to your data. Well, again, it'll take some time to actually create that training report, so I've already done that for us, so we'll hop back out to the workspace, and it stores it in our reports section within the Power BI service. So we'll go to reports. We have our regression report for metro traffic. Awesome. So we'll click on that, let it load here for a second. And again, this was all created for me. I didn't have to do anything besides follow those 4 steps in building the model. And we can see here the model explained about 41% of the variation within the data set. Not the greatest, but not bad for just a preliminary model on the fly. Then here we have a couple charts that talk about the predicted value versus the actual value. You can hover over all these data points to give us each individual data point. And then your actual value versus your residual average of your residual error. And you may be kind of wondering, how do I interpret these results? I don't know. Well, Power BI in these reports includes descriptions on how to help you, the user, interpret your results for your model. So to make sure you get an optimal model that actually provides meaningful insights. Another cool thing here, we can say, click on the See Top Predictors. A little overlay pops up. Oh, we can see that, hey, our custom variable that we created has pretty good, some of the best predictors actually in our model. So let's actually click on this. We click on one. Oh, we can see the average traffic volume for each value of the custom variable we predicted, with afternoon having the most traffic, then evening, morning, and night. Kind of actually as we would have probably predicted if before that we even created the model. So that's pretty cool to see, kind of self-validation right there. And then so this kind of shows you how the model performed. There's also another tab talked about the training details, which goes into kind of how the model was created and kind of gets into a little bit more technical aspects of the machine learning building. So yeah, so pretty easy to start building your models right away and just kind of gaining insights. And that's kind of what's really great about Power BI. So that's it for the demo. We'll hop back to the presentation and finish up. And before I end today's webinar, I want to take what I've talked about and quickly loop back to the BI evolution curve. You see, with Power BI and Power BI service, your organization can quickly progress up the curve and really master the sense and respond portion. But you'll eventually hit this barrier that separates sense and respond and predict and act. This is where you would bring in a data scientist to help your organization kind of build those predictive models and cross this barrier and progress up the curve. But now, with Power BI's AutoML capability, Power BI helps your organization cross this barrier of predictive analytics to really begin unlocking your data. However, it is important to note, even though Power BI and AutoML can help you cross this barrier and help your organization begin using predictive models, predictive analytics and machine learning can provide you so much more insight than what AutoML provides you today. And that is why data science and data scientists are so important in today's organization, to really increase the analytics maturity of your organization and increase its competitive advantage. And say you've discovered with Power BI and AutoML how beneficial predictive analytics can be for your organization, and you want to take the next step, but you're not really sure how, contact Done Solutions Group. We can discuss how your organization can use machine learning, define a project to operationalize machine learning, and help your organization begin making smarter business decisions with machine learning. All right, I think we're pretty close to the end of time. For those of you that have entered in your questions in the chat window, an email of responses will be sent out to you. And then please, if anybody else has any other questions, please feel free to email either I or Mallory at the emails listed on your screen. And again, I just want to thank you all for joining today's webinar. Thank you so much.